What's up everybody, it's Razor Ray, and I put this video together for all the barbers and the stylists out there who want to level up in their craft. I'm going to be walking you through a full haircut tutorial. In this case, my client's getting a pushback style low skin fade with C-cups. So the first part of this haircut we're going to focus on is the top, because getting the top and the crown area cut to size will set the foundation for the fade underneath. So after soaking this hair with water and sea salt spray, I take the time to divide the top into sections. So for somebody who's seeing this for the first time, it might look cool seeing the sections all done and clean, but there is a purpose to it because one zone complements another and they all flow together, kind of like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I know some of you out there probably seeing this for the first time. You guys don't really know me. I'm from New York, so sometimes I be talking with metaphors to explain what I'm doing. Anyway, so now that we have the top section from the crown, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of some of that overhang. So I'm using diagonal sections, working my way from the back of the crown area towards the front. And the purpose of this is really just to uniform the whole cut to his head shape. Take your time if you're new to this. Make sure that you understand every step that you're taking, it has a purpose. Like I remember when I first started getting into shear work, it was a whole new world for me. Before that, I was just chopping the top front to back, making sure it's all even. However it comes out, it comes out. Never really took in the time to understand how much shear work plays a part in the overall shape of somebody's head and complements it. Yeah, shear work, just like clipper work in its own way, is kind of like a rabbit hole. Anyway, not to be random or anything, but I do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. I hope I earned you as a subscriber to these ongoing tutorials that I plan on continuing to do. If there's any feedback that you guys have, make sure to leave it in the comments below. I would love to take that and run with it for the next upcoming videos. So right here, I'm taking a piece from the back and bringing it towards this front corner. I'm pulling it out and cutting all that excess off because this is what's going to bridge the crown to the top. You'll notice at the end of this video when we style his hair and it all flows together. One thing I definitely want to know when it comes to sectioning and doing shear work is always keeping the tension whenever you're pulling hair out so you can get more of an accurate cut. So here I'm basically doing the same techniques I did on the first side on the second side, except now I'm gauging the distance from my knuckles to my fingertips in reverse since we're on the other side. I know this could be a little overwhelming, especially if you're new and you're watching this for the first time, but just take your time. So now we're about to get into cutting the top and setting the length. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and make my vertical section because I'm gonna use that as a guide for the rest of the length on the top. We're going to be looking to cut maybe an inch off the top all around. So I'm going to pull one piece at a time from the back, working my way to the front, setting that guide. And if you look closely, you'll see that I'm using a point cutting method to add a little bit of texture so that his hair doesn't look too flat when it's styled. A lot of the techniques that you're seeing me do here is just from years of trial and error and learning from others as much as I can. The ultimate goal for me is to make sure the haircut is custom tailored to that person's head shape, texture, and of course the way they want to style it. Now pay close attention here because I'm taking that guide with the length that has been set and I'm pushing it into the hair that hasn't been cut yet. And now I can work my way from the back to the front using horizontal sections. And what's happening is I'm lining up the guide that I had set vertically with the guide that I had set for the crown. And I'm just cutting all that excess in between off. So from here, I'm just gonna slowly work my way section by section from the back all the way to the front. Anyway, just to give you some more background about me, I've been in the barbering industry for 16 years. And to be honest, I think I learned the most within the last 5 years. And what I mean by that is not just the craft, I mean more so like the mentality and mindset that you need to have if you want to be a successful barber in the industry. Because it could pay you real good even if you wanted to treat it like a job. But if you want to go above and beyond the average, it's there for you. The sky's the limit. You just got to lock in. Now here I did the same thing just on the other side where I grabbed the guide and then I pushed it towards the hair that hasn't been cut yet horizontally. And I continued that process from the back, working my way to the front, same way I did on the previous side. Something important when it comes to doing haircuts is making sure that everything is symmetrical. So if you do one side one way, then you got to make sure that the other side looks the same. If not, it's just going to look crooked and lopsided. Now the only exception is depending on how they want to style their hair. So once I completed cutting the top all to that same desired length, I use a cross-checking technique to make sure that there's no hair that's hanging out or just stragglers that should be cut even with the rest of his hair. It's just a way to check your work. And now that I'm done, I'm gonna take the time to blow dry his hair in the direction I know he's gonna be styling it in. So you can see here, I take my roller brush with my blow dryer and brushing through all of his hair evenly to make sure that it lays down the exact way I know he's going to be styling it. Now it's time for the fun part. Let's lock in on the skin fade and bring this haircut all together. I'm gonna use my trimmer to draw out my skin line. Now, when it comes to making your skin fades and drawing out your skin lines, you want to make sure that you're using a reference. So what I like to use is his occipital bone. And for those who don't know what that is, it's that big bone that everybody's got in the back. Some people, it might be a little hard to find, but everybody's got one. The other thing to take note when doing your skin line is making sure that one side is symmetrical to the other. I know I mentioned it before, but I can't emphasize enough on this. The other thing to keep in mind too is that there's no actual textbook way to fade. It's a matter of trial and error and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Some barbers like to fade down. I like to fade up, and I'm about to show you what works for me. So now it's time to debulk the sides, and the guard size that I like to use is the 1.5. Now in this case, it's a metal guard. You could also use a plastic guard if you'd like. And I like to use the 2-finger rule whenever it comes to debulking. I like to go 2 fingers up above the skin line. And from here, just take your time. Make sure you're flicking out towards the crown area, because that'll lead to creating harsh lines if you don't. And when it comes to fading, you don't want that. If you're a barber or a stylist and you've ever run into creating harsh lines, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why you want to remember to scoop off the head when you're doing this. So now I'm jumping into a clipper over comb technique that I like to use on majority of my haircuts that have straight hair, wavy hair, even curly hair. And what I'm doing is taking the comb, pulling out the desired amount of length that I want to cut, and I'm using my clipper against that comb, just gliding over it, not pushing in on it to knock off all that desired length. And then I check, make sure it looks good. If there's any adjustments that need to be done where I have to go in and I have to cut more off, I'll go ahead and do that. Baby steps when it comes to this, because you could always take hair off, but you can't put it back on, at least in the moment. So when it comes to clipper over combing, especially bulk, there's 2 variations that I like to use. Now again, I want to remind you, when it comes to clipper over combing, you are basically sculpting the side of their head, tying in the actual fade to the longer areas above that for a nice smooth transition. So the first variation I like to use is where I'm using the clipper flat up against the comb, but I'm going directly up. And then the second is where I'm using the clipper flat against the comb, but I'm going horizontal or on a 45-degree angle. The other important aspect when it comes to clipper over comb to keep in mind is making sure that the clipper isn't pushing on the comb against their head. So you want to use just enough pressure to glide over the comb without pushing in. Now that that's done, we're going to take our full shaver and we're going to use that to knock out the stubble beneath that skin line that we made. You want to make sure that you're using more pressure on the areas that you know need to be bald, but then as you're working your way up to that skin line, you want to make sure you're easing up on the pressure so that you're leaving about 1/4 inch of room to avoid making harsh lines. So now it's time to show you that fading method I told you about earlier. The only tools you're going to need is your fade clipper, your fade comb, and your 1 guard. That's it. One of the references to make sure that my guidelines are properly set is using a finger length between each guideline. So I'm going to start out with my fade clipper all the way open, creating the first fade zone. Now I'm about to put you on to something. This is called the rainbow effect, where you move from one side at one level and then you move back to the other side. And if you keep going back and forth like that, going from one level to the next, it helps you stay on track with your time and work more efficient. So you can see how I went back across all the way closed with this clipper. I was knocking out the bottom skin line, and now I have it 1 notch open, using just the corners flat up against his head to knock out the middle part of that fade zone. Here I'm opening the clipper all the way again and just kissing that top line. I just want to be able to hear the hair cut. I don't want to push that fade zone any higher than where it's at. Now it's time to move up to the next fade zone that we're about to create, using that 1 guard all the way open. Again, using the finger length as a reference above that first fade zone that we created. When you're moving from one side to the next, you want to make sure that you're just moving with small strokes and staying consistent. Okay, so I don't know if you caught that, but now I closed the guard all the way and I'm focusing on that transitionary zone where the one fade zone meets the next fade zone. and I'm just using the corners again with the one guard all the way close. It's very important to note that you want to use your corners for that. So at this point, I'm taking my fade comb and I'm just going to blend the top of that fade into the bulk that's above it where the crown is. It's important to be patient when you're doing this because these are the minor details that most barbers overlook or just won't put the effort into doing them. As you can tell, we still have that bottom skin line that we have to knock out. So I bring my trimmers back and now I'm using just the corners on a 45-degree angle and I'm knocking that out. Again, be patient with this because you don't want to have to go back into the fade. And now it's time to line his C-cups up, which then I'm using just the corner of my trimmer and I'm outlining only about a quarter-inch in from his actual hairline. Any more than that is what I call the danger zone. Then the grow back is going to look kind of funky. So now I'm just doing some detail work with my clippers, going back and forth between opening them up and closing them to make sure I get that fade as blurry as possible. And when it comes to doing this, you want to make sure that you're using the clipper on an angle and you're going along with the growth pattern of their hair, whether it's open all the way or closed. Again, to make sure you avoid creating any harsh lines. So I like to do my fades in sections where I'll focus on either one side and then the back and then the other side, or vice versa. This will help keep me from getting lost between which step I'm at in the fade. One thing I do want to point out when it comes to fading the back of somebody's head is noting where their occipital bone is so that you can fade and complement it as opposed to making it look like a staircase in the back of somebody's head. So for the rest of this fading process, you'll see I use the exact same steps that I pointed out earlier. Again, this system has been proven to work for me on 90 to 95% of all the haircuts that I do. No matter what the texture is, straight, curly, wavy, coarse, the fading method is pretty much the same throughout all those hair types. All right, we're back again. So as you can see, I'm cleaning up my client. All the loose hair is coming off. I'm getting ready to style his hair. So I got my blow dryer out. I got my rolling brush, making sure that everything is flowing all together. In this case, I'm going to use a paste to style his hair. So I'm going to start off by running my fingers over the baby hairs that are in the front of his hairline and around it, and having them stick to the longer hairs above it. And then I'm going to casually run my fingers through the roots of his hair to make sure that the product stays. Then to lock it all in, I'm going to use some hairspray and taking my time using my styling comb and working its way through the sides and then some areas in the back. And that's the final product. I hope this video helps somebody out there with their craft. If you need any personal assistance, make sure you message me on any of my other platforms. They'll be listed below this video. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, brush your hair.